All right, we're live.
Are we live?
That says we're live.
All right. It doesn't say we're live for me, so I believe you.
Okay. Yep. Well, good morning.
Good morning. It says they're live for me now too. Little delay on coming to
Delay.
life.
Okay.
Something's going on.
Well,
Yeah. You
cool.
know, you know what time it is, Eric?
It's time to get shit done.
It's time to get shit done. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. I'm getting shit done with tamari almonds and electrolytes.
Electrolytes. Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Gonna go out kayaking in the sun in a little bit here and need to get hydrated.
Yeah, that
Important.
sounds good.
Hydration helps you to get shit done. I
It
found.
does. I know, right?
That's right. So today we're going to do a little bit of a different episode. We've been doing get shit done videos, and we've been repurposing a lot of them into TikTok videos and for use in other short form video content. But today we're going to do a email marketing AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get shit done when growing your online business. And I've been an email marketing guy. I've been a direct response email marketer for 20 years. Every business that I've started has been built on an email marketing foundation at its very core for 2 decades. And I would happily answer any questions that you have about email marketing as a existing business owner, as someone who's thinking about getting started, as someone who's just starting to build their email list, someone who's had an email list for a long time, but what used to work isn't working anymore, and your profitability is going down, and you need help reviving and increasing, improving, reinventing your email list. If you have questions about email marketing, ask them in the comments. And if you're here and you're watching and you want to say hi, please say hi. We might even invite you to join us on the live stream if we have time. So we would love to hear from you and see you. So chime in. Let us know if you're here. Please write in any questions about email marketing that you might have, no matter how advanced or how new, everything in between. Please go ahead and fire away. In the meantime, in the greater scheme of things, Eric, you are a newer student of email marketing. You've only been studying this stuff really intensely for a few years now. And I know you have some questions related to getting shit done, being an entrepreneur, how to get more leverage. Obviously, I do it with email. So, yeah, any questions or ways that you want to get this conversation rolling?
Yeah, well, to start, I feel really curious because you mentioned, I obviously know about your salsa business, but you mentioned about all your various other like real world businesses, with physical products in the real world. What got you started with email marketing? Like what brought you from like creating, physical businesses to then jumping online and doing email marketing, or like
Yeah.
even thinking about that direction?
So my first business was my salsa company, and I sold which you were familiar with, and it was called Tellman's Salsa. And I started it out in my dorm room, and it was really good salsa, but it was
Okay.
it was made with the best ingredients I could possibly acquire, and I did not skimp at all. I like really packed it in there, and it was a super good recipe. But it was really expensive to produce it in small quantities, and I didn't have money or the infrastructure to produce it at large quantities, so I was stuck with the small quantities, and I couldn't sell it wholesale at a high enough markup to the stores for it to be profitable enough to me make the salsa, load it up in the back of my Toyota Tercel, drive it all throughout New England to all the health food stores and the food co-ops and everything else, drop off a few cases, drive, spend the weekend doing that, drive back, turn in my papers late for college, and still like have made less money than I would have made, washing dishes or whatever.
Right.
And so I did that for 5.5 years part-time. I ran the business 5.5 years part-time, and I couldn't sell it at a high enough profit to make it work. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to break it through, and So I was stuck. With that business, and yeah, for the love of God, I couldn't figure out a feasible solution. And I wasn't willing to like go after investors and that kind of stuff. It just wasn't my style. So unfortunately, that business ultimately died a slow and painful death, and it shouldn't have. It was a great product. Everybody loved it. People still ask about it to this day, over 20 years later. They want me to bring it back, you know?
Right. Like that golden salsa, there was nothing else like it.
Yeah, the golden salsa. Well,
Yep.
there's talk of bringing a variation of that back, actually.
Okay,
So
cool.
maybe your and many other people's dreams will come true.
Nice.
It was also hard because I was trying to figure out how to, at one point near the end of the salsa business, I was trying to figure out how to sell salsa on the internet. And because I lived in a small town, and I was like, it was more expensive to ship it than it was for me to sell it, because salsa is heavy. There's a heavy glass jar, and the contents is heavy. And so I just couldn't. I was studying internet marketing to try to figure out how to sell salsa. But in the meantime, over the 5.5 years that the salsa business existed, I was working part-time jobs, and I was also trying to start other businesses. And I tried to start a bootstrapped lawn care business one summer, and there was a drought. I remember my ex-wife and I spent all of our extra money on some sweet lawnmowers, and we were ready. And it never freaking rained all summer. We were toast. It was like, we spent like, $500. It was like all we had, on these lawnmowers. We were no good. So that was infuriating. And then at one point we were painting and selling bamboo didgeridoos at music festivals. And sometimes I'd have like half the tent for didgeridoos and half the tent for salsa that we were selling stuff out of. And then, at one point, we were also making and selling magic wands and selling them to all of like the local ish, within, 2.5 hour, 3 hour driving distance, like woo new age spiritual crystal shops, selling these didgeridoos and these handmade magic wands. Then I was also looking into other opportunities to make more money that weren't necessarily my own business, but they weren't really a job either. And so at one point I worked for Cutco selling knives door to door, right? And I sucked at it. I was selling them to like super liberal college professors in the woods, and it was just not succeeding. And then I went and I sold, but that I was an independent person. I wasn't an employee, but I also, didn't really own my own business. You know what I mean? It was a commissioned sales job. And then at one point I actually, I was looking for ways to make money online because it was Vermont. It was winter. I remember being like snowed in online, hovering over my desktop in the dark. Everybody was asleep in the house. And I was like, just trying to figure out how to make some freaking money. It's very frustrating. I joined this pyramid scheme thing called American Family Publishing.
Okay.
And it was kind of cool, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a catalog, a print catalog, and people you'd send it to them in the mail. And then a certain percentage of them would buy these weird handcrafted kits, like popsicle stick log cabin kits, like old fashioned style, like Little Home on the Prairie, like Applehead doll.
Oh, right. Okay.
Family sets and like potpourri pillow kits that you can like embroider yourself or whatever, right? Weird stuff. But like the money wasn't in the kits, and the money wasn't in what they were buying. The money was actually in generating the, I didn't know it then, but it was in generating the lead and doing the work to generate the lead to get someone to respond to the catalog. So that now we know of a person that's engaged, and that's where the actual money is. And so they were kind of like, paying you to generate leads for them is kind of how it worked. It was a very interesting thing. And it was the early stages of me learning about direct response marketing. And little did I know, I was learning about email marketing, but it hadn't come yet. So there was this long buildup that happened. At one point I bought, I still have it, Don Lapre. Okay. Don Lapre had a late night infomercial.
Yep.
Big money from tiny classified ads. And it was this info product. It was a set of books. Don Lapre's, big money from tiny ads, like system. And it was a system that taught you how to run ads that generated leads that got people to buy stuff to make money by running ads. Right. So it was like you bought the system that teaches you how to make the money to buy the system. It's very like pyramidy, but it totally started teaching me about lead generation. And like I read these books and I was like, huh. So in the meantime, all of these businesses that I had essentially failed. Okay.
Right.
One after the other, they failed. And the reason that they failed was because I couldn't make enough profit during the time that I was spending to live well and sustain the business.
Okay.
It was either a one-man show or a one-man, one-woman show with my ex-wife Jody, who like we started so many of these things together, right?
Okay.
And so, and in the meantime, one or both of us would be working jobs, And so I finally, became a hypnotherapist. In college, I was studying altered states of consciousness and brain waves and peak performance in athletes and all this stuff. And then after college, I wanted to continue that work. And so I spent my last $2,000 to get a hypnotherapy certification at a local hypnotherapy franchise. And it was called Positive Changes Hypnosis. And when I gave the woman my check, I was like, look, this is the last money I got. I'm going to be eating ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 3 months if I give you this check. Like when I found the ad for this hypnotherapy certification, I was looking for another job.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, I see that you have some other hypnotists who are working for you here. She's like, yep. I'm like, how many do you have? She's like, I have 3 part-time people in addition to me doing hypnosis here. I'm like, oh yeah. If I'm the best student that you've ever had, will you hire me after I get certified? She was like, whoa,
Nice.
Well, Mr. Posture, she's like twice my age or something. She's like punk ass kid. And she's like, well, if you're the best student I've ever had and we get along and we work well together and I need help at the time, I'll consider it. I was like, sold. And then I became the best student she ever had. And she hired me 6 weeks into the 12-week certification course. Boom. Right. So that was really cool, but I was still making like $12.50 an hour hypnotizing people.
Yeah,
and I was not making bank, but I was doing something with my brain, not my hands. I was working at like the Vermont Bread Company night shift on the conveyor belt to pay the bills in the meantime. And it was like this hard, where I was doing whatever I could to make money, but at least a bunch of the hours I was using my brain instead of just wasting my time, doing I was learning a skill.
Yep. And
what I didn't realize at the time was that I was being surrounded. I was inundated. I was completely surrounded by direct response marketing. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because I didn't know it. I didn't even know those words, but Positive Changes Hypnosis was a direct response marketing company. And they used full page newspaper ads before and after weight loss testimonial style advertisements, big headlines, bold claims, guarantees, come in for a free screening, right? All these things. hour-long one-on-one sales presentation, high-ticket sales, the whole thing.
Right.
And
Okay, cool.
and they used long-form radio commercials that would play incessantly on the local radio stations.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And it was mostly for weight loss. And I never had a weight problem. So first of all, it didn't hit close to home for me.
Right. Okay.
So I just wasn't interested in the topic. So I shouldn't have been interested in the marketing, but I thought I didn't like the marketing because it was ugly. It was in your face. It was hypey. It was like salesy. It was like it was used car-ish. It was like
Right, totally.
ugly marketing. It was not pleasant. I didn't like it. So I hated it. And I was surrounded by it and I didn't know it because I was trained in hypnosis. They didn't train me in their marketing system.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
And so what ended up happening is I left after a year and a half. I became their main hypnotist. I was doing like 60 hours a week of hypnosis in 3 different offices at one point. Like I was hypnotizing the bejesus out of people to like all day. I was in my 20s, all day, every day. I was just like, bam, bam, bam,
Wow.
just hypnotizing people.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh my God, I can't keep this up. Like, and this is for stuff that I don't want to be working with people on, about topics I'm not passionate about. And so I decided to start my own hypnosis. I left on good terms, but I went to start my own hypnosis practice. But I didn't know anything about marketing. I had a skill now with hypnosis and I was good at it. And I had some clients that kind of followed me, but not enough to sustain me. And so I was back to trying to get my own hypnosis business to work. It was failing. And I was back to working night shift at the bread company again at night while I was trying to wear a tie and walk around in a suit coat downtown in Brattleboro during the day to pretend I looked professional, barely holding my eyes open because I didn't get any sleep last night. And wondering, when the phone was going to ring or somebody was going to knock on the door or inquire. And I was just like, what the heck? Dag nabbit. I was very frustrated.
Yep.
And so then I was like, I've got to find a way to sell hypnosis. And I went online and I Googled it. There wasn't anything.
No.
And at the time, my stepfather was a chiropractor. And I knew chiropractic is still a little weird, not as weird as hypnosis, but a little weird. And I figured maybe someone's taught a course, and I knew about chiropractic is good for lower back pain and headaches and, spinal issues and all these different things. And so I was like, maybe someone's taught a course on how to teach chiropractors how to market their businesses, because the business model is kind of similar to hypnosis.
All right.
In terms of like therapy one-on-one, right? And so I found a course online, a printed course that I bought for like $395. Where they sent me like 5 giant binders with all these ads and this whole methodology and this whole direct response marketing, direct mail structure to generate ads or generate leads with direct mail and get people to come in for a free session in your office.
All right.
And so what I did is I took that and I used it as a template and I rewrote all the words for weight loss, for quitting smoking, for stress and insomnia. And so I had 4 different special reports that were all 8.5 by 11, folded in half, stapled down the middle, and I ran these. So this is cool. I ran these and this is my application of what I learned from this course. But what I ended up doing was I ran these tiny classified ads, that said, want to quit smoking? Call the Quit Smoking Hotline 24 hours, 7 days a week for your free special report. Okay? 888 number.
All right.
They'd call the 888 number. Hey, this is Telman Knutson with the Quit Smoking Hotline. Okay. And and I'm like, so if you want to quit smoking, then we've put together this incredible special report that we will send to you absolutely for free, outlining the top 10 ways that Americans just like you are using to quit smoking quickly and easily right now. At the tone, just speak very clearly, leave your name, your phone number, your name, your mailing address, and your phone number if you want a return call for immediate assistance to help you quit smoking now.
Cool.
That was basically the message. And then I had one for weight loss, and then I had one for stress, and then I had one for insomnia, and then I had one for ADD and for ADD symptoms. And I placed these classified ads, and then people would call the number, which would not ring on my phone. This was like on an automated system.
Yeah.
The voicemail would pick up. They'd leave the message. Caller ID would grab everybody's caller ID, whether or not they left their phone number. And then I would get emailed a transcription of their addresses.
Okay.
And then I would manually print out the addresses, stick them on an envelope. I'd manually print out the special reports from my printer. I got one of those extra long staplers so I could staple them down the middle. And then I'd stuff the envelopes and bring them up the street to the post office. And I got to the point where I was shoveling 50 envelopes into the post office every day, sending out all these special reports to all these people all around New England.
Yeah.
And then the special reports would say, here are the ways to quit smoking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what was the best one? Hypnosis, of course, was the best one. And here's why. And that's why we've arranged for you to have a free complimentary screening session with Telman Knudsen. That's me. I specialize in helping you to quit smoking. And if you'd like to come in, I have a few spots available left on my calendar this week where I could book you in while there are still spots available. There's no obligation. You can come in, check it out. We can feel each other out and see whether or not hypnosis would be the right thing for you or not. And then they would call my phone and I would book a session with them. Okay. And that would ring at my house. And then in an ideal world in the morning, I'd get texted all these addresses. I'd get all the caller IDs and I'd get printing the reports and I'd be calling the phone numbers as soon as possible to talk to people on the phone, because if I can call them soon after they left a message, then I can grab them while they're still at home. And this is kind of pre-cell phone almost. It was early cell phone days.
I was just thinking, this is what, like the early 2000s or something.
Yeah. And yeah. It was like 2002. Yep. And so it was working as a one-man show with occasional help from friends. Like I'd be like, I'll buy beer and pizza. We're stuffing envelopes tonight, boys. And everybody would come over and we'd sit around and stuff envelopes for a while, but where it broke down. So, and then people would call and I was full. I suddenly was able to figure out how to fill up my practice.
Cool.
Yeah. But the problem was the repetition. Okay. It got so freaking boring, dude. Do you have licking that many envelopes? It's just like, it's brutal.
Yeah. And you probably still remember the taste of the envelopes, right?
So the repetition killed me. And and what would happen is I would procrastinate on printing out the labels, and I'd procrastinate on printing out the reports, and I'd procrastinate on assembling the packages, and I'd procrastinate on getting them in the mail, and I'd procrastinate on calling the clients. And like, if you don't do all that stuff, you don't have any clients.
Totally.
Right. And so I was frustrated at myself because I couldn't bring myself to do all the grunt work necessary in order to run the business. And so guys, if you have questions about direct response or email marketing or how to get shit done as an entrepreneur, please ask them in the comments. Chime in if you're watching and you want to say hi. We are very open to jumping people in, and you can either ask your question or just say, hey, if you're familiar, please go ahead and let us know in the comments if you're around. I'm giving you a super long-winded answer, but it's a pretty good story. So
Yeah, it is.
So what ended up happening is the business had all these ups and downs, and I was very frustrated by it. And I was still trying to figure out how to sell hypnosis on, or how to sell salsa on the internet, because the salsa business hasn't completely died yet.
All right.
And I was like, how can I sell hypnosis CDs? How can I take a recording of my time and sell a recording of it instead of just my time? Maybe that's how I need to get leverage, right?
Right.
Because with the salsa, I was selling jars of salsa for $4 though, and it take a lot of effort to make them. Whereas a CD you could sell for 10, 15, $20, and all you have to do is press the print button and your computer would spit it out. Right. So a much cheaper way of producing something at a much higher value. And so lo and behold, it's an info product, right? But like, what I was trying to figure out how to sell hypnosis CDs on the internet. And so I was studying internet marketing, and Mark Joyner had released the Confidential Internet Intelligence Manuscript and Mind Control Marketing. Both books were on the scene. And Mark is a brilliant entrepreneur, brilliant marketer, very influential mentor to me. And reading those books, I didn't understand a lot of what they were trying to teach me in internet marketing terms. I hadn't really wrapped my head around them, but there's an idea that I learned that called integration marketing that Mark coined the term, where you plug your business kind of inside of another business. And so I'm not going to go into a long integration marketing explanation right now. You can go to integrationmarketing.com or check out Mark Joyner's stuff. But like, what I figured out how to do is I was like, oh, what if I set my hypnosis office up inside of a Curves for Women? And so I knocked on the door at the local, or I called the phone of the local Curves for Women. I didn't knock on the door because it was for women. And I was like, yo, I have some weight loss clients who have asked me about where they should exercise. And that's true. And I'm like, I've never seen Curves for Women because I'm not a woman. And I didn't want to just like show up. I would love it if you could give me a tour so I can make an intelligent decision about who I should and shouldn't send your way.
Okay.
Pretty good way to make an introduction, right?
Sure. Yep.
And then I said, before we hung up, I was like, by the way, I know this is a weird question, but do you have a room available, an empty room, at least one day a week that you might be interested in renting out by chance? And she's like, well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I was like, great. See you when I come in for the tour tomorrow, whatever. And so I went in for the tour and I got the whole tour of the facility. And I was like, sure enough, these are my customers. These are all my weight loss clients, right? They were all overweight, middle-aged women who had enough money and the interest in losing weight. And I totally needed mindset help. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, tell me about that room. And so we went down in the basement. Okay. And it was a carpeted, well-lit basement, but it was still a New England basement. It was cold. It was dark. Right. Yep. And there was a room that they had rented out for a massage therapist with no windows, like no real ventilation. You know what I mean? Only one exit. But they rented it out kind of off the books to a massage therapist. And I was like, well, how much would you rent this out for? You know, per day or per week or whatever. And she told me, I was like, how would you like 3 times that? She's like, what? I'm like, well, here's what I propose. I give every single one of your clients a free hypnosis session. And then if they sign up for more, I give you 1/3 of everything I earn within your walls.
Nice.
No
Yeah.
cost to you, profit to everybody. You'll get paid way more than if I just pay you out of pocket. And I'll hypnotize all of your people to exercise more you know, like I'll hypnotize them to come in more often and stick with their membership, you know?
Cool. All right.
So like, I didn't hypnotize people to stick with their membership, but I hypnotized people to be more committed to weight loss and exercise and like following the system, you know? And it started working like gangbusters. And so what I did is I had a clipboard that was set up on the desk where people could fill it, where I had my availability, and people could just write in their name and their phone number for a session that they wanted on my calendar. And then people would come in, they do the free session, and then I would sell them a 6-session series. And I'd give them a $75 off discount if they paid for it all at once.
Okay.
80% of the people that came in for a free session bought the package.
80%. That's pretty good.
And 80% of the people that bought paid in advance. So like I was getting paid in advance for all these people. I was like booked out for months.
Nice.
And then I opened up 4 more different, I called these mini practices, and I opened up 4 more mini practices.
In different businesses.
What's that?
In different businesses.
Mm-hmm. They're all about a 45-minute drive from me, but like they were all different. It's kind of like, honestly, it's a lot like spending time in somebody else's Facebook group.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah, I was going to say that.
Same thing. Just adding value in other people's Facebook
totally.
group. Totally. Yeah. And then what happened? So I had successfully automated some aspects by creating some systems that didn't require me to generate the lead once the system was set up, right? I didn't have to put the mail, I didn't have to print out the packets. I didn't have to send them in the mail. Like, and back in the day, there would have been ways for me to automate that, but I didn't have the cash flow or the organization or the forethought to like build a big whole, system back in the day.
Right.
And so this was a way I could do it with no cash. That involved a clipboard, some 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and like sticking to a schedule, and it worked really well. So that automated I was generating leads and generating sales, but I was still doing the fulfillment. I was still doing the fulfillment of the hypnosis.
Right.
And that's where my time and the sales, and that's where my time became bottlenecked, because you can only see 10 clients a day, 6 days a week.
That's all one-on-one.
Okay. Otherwise, you're anything more than that in your 20s, you can do that. After that, you're toast. Yeah. So like, what I ended up doing was then thinking, I figured out some of these marketing things, but how can I go back to selling stuff online? How can I sell recordings of my time instead of selling my time? And I kind of went back around to that. And that's when I ended up creating the Nitro marketing mindset. There's a whole nother story, but it's how I got my first $13,000 royalty check online. Was because I created a product for a company that already existed using my hypnosis skills and my project management skills. And I got a royalty check from the launch.
Great.
But they owned the email list. I didn't.
Oh, they did. Okay.
And so the first check was for like over 12 grand. It was like 12,700. I think it was $12,793.
Yep.
And then the second check was like for $7,000 and change.
Yeah.
And then third grand was like $2,000 and change. And the fourth was like $1,400. And I was like, shit.
It's getting less and less, right?
What am I missing here?
Yeah.
I don't have a list. And at that point, I realized that like in my entrepreneurial journey, I'd started all of these businesses, and it's not just one thing that you need, guys. Like it never ends. Okay, it never ends in terms of like what's the next thing to realize. But for me, when I realized that I could sell recordings of my time and that I could sell it to multiple people at once, I guess I learned this as I began building my email list, and then I really learned this when I learned how to do teleseminars from Alex Mandossian. So I had an email list of 10,000 people. I was sending an email out to it, and it was making money, but it was making about $10,000 a month max. Okay. And
how long did it take you to build that list?
Less than a year. It took about 7 months, like once we got everything right. And I had a 6-person team plus me. There were 7 of us.
Yep.
And so we were all splitting the money, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and some of us were working harder than others and were smarter than others and
Yep.
more committed than others and a bigger pain in the ass than others or easier to work with than others. And so it was kind of a shit show in terms of like how everybody got paid and whatever. But ultimately, some people stuck around, some people didn't. We had this list that we were mailing and we were creating lots of audio content for, and it was kind of like a podcast called List Crusade. And I was making money, but I wasn't able to quit my job yet. You know what I mean? Like my job as a hypnotist. And then I started doing teleseminars after I went through Alex Mandossian's teleseminar secrets course. And I started promoting teleseminars to my email list where I was the host. And then at the end, we'd sell somebody else's stuff for $2,000. And I went from making $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month.
Nice.
In 3 months, as I learned the art, as I didn't realize at the time, but it was really the art of selling from stage, right? The public speaking and selling. Yeah, I wasn't on stage. I was on the phone, but all the sales scripts and the processes and the psychology and the price points and the frame, everything is directly from speaking from stage and selling.
Interesting. Okay.
And all the webinar stuff now came from all the teleseminar stuff, right? So like, and then sales videos came from sales letter, whatever. It's confusing, but the point is that I really transitioned from physical world to email because I was working my ass off in my hypnotherapy practice and it was full and I couldn't see a way out that wasn't going to like crack me psychologically. And I needed to make more money and I was financially plateaued and I needed to find a way to create leverage. And I had some, but not much. And email going from one to many with my marketing efforts allowed me to get that leverage that I was looking for. Cool. So that my time became infinitely more valuable. The time that I had spent working on my businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting about it too is like, I mean, there was that 3-month period where it really went off, but then, you know, that long journey leading up to that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it's kind of like if you make this massive breakthrough without having to work your ass off first, nobody cares to hear the story. You know what I mean? There's nothing good about that.
I know.
You know,
right.
Like there's not a real lesson there, you know?
Yeah, right. No, it reminds me of I have this friend. He's been trying really hard. Okay, currently he's not trying really hard, but for the past like maybe 8 or 10 months, maybe almost close to a year, he got it in his head. He wanted to, you know, make $1 million, and he started doing these weekly live streams about his progress on that. And he started out, you know, with basically nothing. And he started out, you know, this like selling things at the farmer's market, like making these frozen banana pops with mac nuts and chocolate and stuff like that. And he was making a little bit of money, not much money. And then he got into selling life insurance and he started making, you know, like close to $10,000 here and there with that. And then he decided he was sick of working really hard all the time, and he has this friend who inherited a couple $1 million, and he's now paying him to play video games with him, and decided he doesn't want to work very hard anymore. I was like,
Huh.
that sounds like a, I mean, all right, it's, you know,
It's very funny. I mean, hey, we all have a different journey, right?
yeah,
But that reminds me of a super cool book you might be inspired to read or listen to,
yep,
called, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called The Red Paperclip, or Red Paperclip.
okay,
This guy, I met him once or twice. His name's Kyle McDonald. And hopefully he's done some cool stuff since this book. But the book came out a bunch of years ago. And he's a young guy, kind of quirky, just kind of weird dude. And he had a red paperclip. And he decided that he was going to document his journey of trading up that paperclip as high as he could go. Traded. Okay.
all right, yeah,
And told the story of the trades as he was engaging in the future trades.
interesting,
And so he would like place ads that says, I'm looking to trade this thing for this other, thing or something similar. What you got, and just to engage in the barter and the fun of it, people would jump in, and then they became part of the story and part of the mission. And he traded up for a house, dude.
wow,
And he wrote a book
that's
about it.
amazing,
Okay. Yeah. He wrote a book about it.
wow,
Red Paperclip, very inspiring and super cool. So, there's not just one way to do this.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah. You remember, there's lots of different ways you can do cool stuff.
yep.
Nice. Well, Eric, do you have any other questions? I know we've been going for 42 minutes. Do you have any other questions you want to ask today, or any rapid fire questions you want to ask, or do you feel like you got what you need? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we could wrap it up. I've got a list of questions here. We could go. I could ask a couple more.
Yeah, let's do some rapid fire. I'll give you some 30-second answers. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. In your experience, what are the most common roadblocks people face when trying to start their own businesses, and how can they overcome them?
Great. The most common roadblock that people face when trying to start their own businesses is that they ask advice, and they ask for inspiration and motivation and assurance and validation from their friends and family. This is the worst thing that most of us can do, unless you have a very good friend, family member, or highly supportive individual in your life who's a die-hard entrepreneur, lives, eats, and breathes being an entrepreneur, and supports people going after their dreams and trying to start something cool in an entrepreneurial fashion. If they don't have that running through their veins, and only like 5% of us do, go hang out with people that operate that way to get your positive feedback, encouragement, motivation, ideas, enthusiasm, and inspiration from, not people who have no business even giving you their opinion.
Right. No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of Facebook groups where you can find that online if you can't find it in your physical life.
Another version of this that's taking it from a different angle, Eric, is that
Yep.
one of the biggest problems that people face is looking toward people for validation in their business instead of looking toward their bank account. When you're starting a business, the best way to know whether or not your idea is any good is if people buy stuff from you.
Right.
Super
Sure.
simple.
Okay.
Focus on selling stuff and letting that be your feedback as to whether or not you're on the right track, rather than whether or not somebody likes your ad or likes your website or likes your Facebook page or likes your Instagram post.
Okay. Totally. Yeah, it makes sense. All right. Let's see. Can you share any stories or examples of individuals whose lives have been transformed through your coaching programs?
Oh, geez. I mean, for years, we had a whole website that was just called Telman Knudsen Testimonials. And there were like
Oh, really? Yeah.
thousands of them. It doesn't exist anymore. I thought it got kind of like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have let it die, but it was, there's so many people. I mean, even if you look on my YouTube channel, there's a whole playlist of testimonials of people that have learned stuff from me or worked with me, either from a marketing standpoint or a mindset standpoint. I mean, just on the email marketing side of things alone, I've coached and trained over 250,000 individuals how to build email lists for their small and medium-sized businesses. That's just not, on one side. So there are definitely testimonials. Yeah, look on my testimonial playlist on YouTube. That'd probably be a good place to start.
Cool. Yeah, all right.
What we could actually do is you could actually use some of those videos at there are some really good clips in there that you could use for some Get Shit Done content.
Cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, remind me to send you the link.
Cool. Yeah, I'll remind you.
Cool.
How do you stay inspired and motivated in your own entrepreneurial endeavors?
Right. So there are a few things. One is I don't always succeed, but I try to always have at least one mentor that I'm paying, that I'm fired up about learning from.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Like I always have at least one person where I'm paying to connect with them on some level.
Yep.
At least on a weekly basis, right? Ideally in the form of a mastermind or one-on-one coaching or consulting, depending on the nature of what you're learning. But honestly, whatever your price point, spending the time bathing your brain in someone else's content that is inspiring to you, that has to do with growing your business, is a great way to go, right? I would encourage you to choose someone who is tactically invigorating for you rather than just philosophically, because there are a lot of people that I'm not going to badmouth anybody. There are a lot of people who are out there who are more philosophers who can talk about business and they can talk about marketing, but they can't teach you anything, right? They can't teach you anything clear or specific where it makes your brain feel good. It's kind of like eye candy. Like it makes you feel good, but it doesn't actually give you anything to do to make any more money. So I really like studying with people that can teach me implementable tactics and strategies that I can try and see how it works in my business. And I'm fired up about trying. So that's a big piece.
Cool.
The other piece is to stay inspired and motivated in your entrepreneurial endeavors. You need to feel good. And so eating well, hydrating well, exercising regularly, and spending time around optimistic and positive people is a hugely important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I like what you said about, the kind of training platforms where it was like, or mentors that you had where, they weren't teaching you anything tactical. I had a similar experience when I first got started with the business that I'm creating, where the training that was, readily available to new people jumping on board, it was not tactical stuff. And I felt so confused. Like, this is the training that we're being given. And it's just kind of like this woo-woo, like mindset stuff, which is good stuff, but without the tactical, like, well, what do I actually do to get my business going?
Right.
I didn't know what to do with it.
Right. Well, you have to
understand
that it's easier now than ever to be a guru of something. Sure. And every single person that, absolutely myself included at the top of the list, everybody that teaches anything online is also going through a learning curve as a teacher, learning how to effectively teach and to teach clearly and to reach their audience and to get them results and to give them what they're looking for, but also give them what they need. And some people are naturally better at that than others. Some people are more experienced and have more time screwing it up. And so they've gotten better over time, so it is a little tricky, but a lot of the time a lot of the time it's just finding somebody that really resonates with where you're at right now in that as well, because maybe you're just looking for that philosophy. Maybe you're just looking for to think about it, and you're not actually looking to implement anything right now. A lot of people are in that stage, you know?
Totally. Yeah. It's also, I also really resonate with what you shared about, just having a mentor that you're engaging with regularly to keep you inspired and flowing with what you're doing. I've definitely experienced that too, where at periods of time where I have not been actively engaging with some sort of mentorship or training, my whole kind of energy around everything that I was creating in my business would sort of fall flat.
Yep.
And my content creation would fall flat. It just, what I found, if you're not continually learning and growing, it just kind of falls flat.
And and there's an interesting piece, because what can happen, especially if you're like a solopreneur, right?
Yep.
And then you finally met with some level of success. And for most people, that's 10 grand a month, right? For most people, they're like, if I hit 10 grand a month, that's significantly more than I need to live on.
Yep.
And cover my current business expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And like eat out at nice restaurants significantly more often than I am now. Right. To drive consistently get my car payment, to drive a nice car, like 10 grand a month is most people's like golden number of, the beginning of success.
Yep.
But what can happen is you can have a mentor and a teacher, and then you grow your company. And instead of focusing your attention on living up to the standards of your mentor or your teacher, you can evolve that or change it where you're living up to serve your team and or to serve your customers and subscribers and clients. And so you can shift your attention to who you're trying to do a good job for, from a mentor to these other groups. And you can do it for all three simultaneously, to be working at improving yourself, sharpening your sword, improving your own skills with your mentor, while being a good immediate leader and company leader for your team, and serving as an inspiration and being a teacher to your customers. That's in the ideal situation. But it's almost like the more people you need to be responsible to, and the more people you need to hold and really pay attention to, the more money you tend to make. It's the more responsibility that you're willing to take on. It tends to have a direct relationship to how much money you have the ability to kind of flow through you, in my experience. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. Should we keep going, or how are you feeling?
Let's do one more.
Okay. Yep. Okay, here's a good one that's like really aligned with I just did a live stream on this topic last night, which is time management. Could you share some practical tips for effective time management and productivity?
Yeah, so I'll share some tips for effective time management and productivity for disorganized, ADD, scattered people. All right. So, and experience here, right? So these are like real tips for disorganized people. So one is use Google Calendar. Okay. Super simple.
Okay.
Or something better.
Yeah.
Okay. But like use an online calendar system with alerts to keep you on track. Okay.
Yep.
That are going to remind you when you have appointments. Okay. Number two, schedule in all your stuff. Schedule in your daily activities and schedule in your one-time activities. Okay. If
All right.
you if your intention is to do 3 sales calls a day from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern, then schedule blocks of time and make that time available to fill in that with sales calls or activity that will lead to
Okay.
sales calls. So schedule in the time that you're going to do the things, or the time that you're setting aside to do the most important tasks in your business. Super important. Another wonderful piece is, if you possibly can, is daily check-ins with someone that's either on your team or someone that cares about whether or not you are successful. Daily check-ins are awesome. It helps to hold you accountable. It helps to hold them accountable. It helps everybody make more progress.
Cool.
I've been doing daily check-ins between 7 and 9 a.m. Over the years. It's changed for 20 years now, with my various teams. And I don't like following structure. I don't like following schedules, but I've let that go. And I found that when I have time scheduled in to run every day, I usually run 5 or 6 days a week. And the same applies to every other activity in my life.
Okay, cool.
Like when I schedule in date nights happen more often.
All right.
it's and the same is true with sending an email out to your email list, or making that TikTok video, or writing and deploying some new ads on Facebook, or doing that new podcast episode, or whatever you're doing, right?
Right.
That's true. So you use an automated schedule and calendar system and schedule in everything, including free time and time off. You can have flex time and free time. Schedule it in too. I'm not saying burn yourself out and don't do anything fun, but like set time aside for the things that are most important to you in your life and your business, and do your best to stick to it. I mean, you don't have to be a militant, neurotic, psychopath, but like do your best to stick to it and be flexible when it changes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that. I was just talking about this last night on the live stream I did, where because I also really resist structure. The idea of it feels really restrictive, right?
Right.
But then I was thinking about it. I was like, even though it feels restrictive, if I were to, implement more structure in my time management, it would ultimately give me more freedom, because I'd have freed up blocks of time where, from being a lot more efficient over on this end and condensing and removing all the distractions when I'm like over here, and then freeing up all this time over here.
The other really interesting thing that it doesn't just free up time.
Okay.
It frees up mental and creative energy.
Interesting.
And to solve and work on more important shit.
Okay. Yep.
So when your life is a disorganized shit show, every little decision, every little thing that you do every single day, you have to think about it, process it, make a decision. Are you going to do it now? Are you going to procrastinate? Are you going to do it later? How hard are you going to do it? How hard are you going to work on it? Are you going to be thorough? Or are you going to be a slacker? Like all these things. And you have to make a decision over, whereas if every single day at 6 a.m. you go for a run, you're going to wake up automatically at 5:45. Your brain waves are already going to be synced up. You're going to grab that glass of water on the way down the stairs, and you're going to go out for your run. And while you're on for your run, you're going to be solving more important problems, rather than trying to figure out whether or not you should work out that morning, and if so, what you should do.
Totally.
So when you do have it, I found that when my schedule is the most packed with meetings with other people, I'm always making the most money. The busier, because I'm either creating an opportunity, finding an opportunity in a conversation with somebody, or making something happen. And when my schedule is open, the least amount of money is coming in.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. When I'm wide open, the least amount of money, the most scheduled, the most. So, I strongly encourage you to use your schedule to your advantage. It's on your phone. You can share your calendar with people, real simple. Makes a huge difference.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to try that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, great live streaming as always with you, Eric. And
yeah, likewise.
Thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions about marketing or getting shit done, ask them in the comments. We'll answer them in future videos.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. It's 2:18. It's time to get shit done.
Time.
Over and out.
All right. See you later.
Goodbye.